In this week's episode, we talk about business ideas, intimacy with the Lord, and we hear from a dude called Mark. So welcome to episode 2 of Business Greenhouse TV. We're having an absolute blast at the moment doing these for you, and massively grateful for those of you that are subscribing to our channel and sharing and tagging friends and those, and just, I guess, helping us spread this message. We're having a whole bunch of fun doing it. We've had a really busy period at the moment. You know, we were just down in Melbourne doing a training. We were doing Finding Your Godly Assignment. So what is your business and what's it going to fund, and how do we put legs on our faith and really start to walk out cultural change, and a whole bunch of things in the pipeline moving forward. So super, super excited, having a bunch of fun. But let's get into episode 2 of Business Greenhouse TV. Michelle, what's our first question?
Alana Sorensen asks, how do I know if my business idea is worth pursuing?
That is a fantastic question. And you know, I took this question because it's one that I get asked a lot. You know, how do I decide if I even start this thing? Like, you know, I've got an idea. Well, let me start off by saying ideas are a dime a dozen, okay? You know, ideas are worth nothing in this day and age. There are, you know, I come up with 8 ideas an hour of things that I could go and do, but they mean nothing. It's execution that is everything, okay? Execution is the name of the game, okay? Ideas are, you know, like they're kind of important, but unless you're executing them, they're irrelevant, okay? I meet a lot of people with loads of good ideas and they're still considering them, you know, like as long as you're doing that, you're gonna go nowhere. So here's what I do. To answer your question, how do you know? Well, one of the options is you ask your family and friends, okay? That's what a lot of people do. They think up a new business idea, they go to their family and friends, what do you think of this? And your family and friends always give you the same answer. Excellent. They tap you on the shoulder, they say, that would be lovely, dear, now let's have a cup of tea together, you know. That's the extent of the market research. And the problem is that they're never going to tell you the idea sucks. They're never going to be honest enough with you to tell you, you know what, either the idea is terrible or you can't do it, okay? They're never going to be that brutally honest with you, okay? Here's the way I do it. If I'm ever going to consider going into a business, I want the market to tell me that it's a good idea. I don't want families, friends, or my own brain, okay? I want the market to tell me. So here's what you do. You go to market and you find out, will somebody pay you cash for your new business idea? That's the only true way to test if a business is commercial. Go to the market, get someone to part with their money, and if they're prepared to part with their money, they're telling you that they value what you're about to go and offer. Let me give you a practical example. Back in 2009, business coaching was really good. I won a bunch of industry awards. I was loving life, but I was a bit bored with what I was doing. And like any entrepreneur, if it ain't broke, we break it, okay? So I was coaching, everything was going well, but I wanted a new challenge. So I started a business with another guy called iSystemize International. And basically, it was a systems manual using video rather than paper. So instead of punching out a systems manual in a folder, we thought, what if we filmed it, put it up on a cloud, streamed it through an app, people could see their systems. Great business. But it was brand new in the industry, okay? Before I ever went and built the software, and before I ever went and, you know, set up because we ended up having sales teams in 5 countries, before I ever did any of that, what I did was this one particular day, I blocked out all my meetings in that day, and I sat my potential prospects for that business in my boardroom, and I saw them one after the other after the other. I saw like 8 businesses, one after the other in one day. And I pitched them the concept, I pitched them that this would be a good product for them, and then I said to them this, I don't know when this product is going to be available, I'm going to sell it to you for half price if you sign up today. Okay, half price if you buy it today, but there's a bit of a loose end date on when it's going to be delivered to you. Would you like to buy that? 5 of the people said yes on the day. So I took money. Now, that gave me 2 things. It gave me the go-ahead that it's a really good idea, and it also gave me the cash to spend to complete the software to get the job done. So don't try and go to family and friends. Ask the market for money, and they will tell you the truth. I love that question. I get asked that question all of the time. I love it. Well done. Michelle, what is question number 2?
This is a private message. How do I spend more time with God? How do I study the Word?
Okay, private message. How do I spend more time with God? How do I study the Word? Okay, you know, this is a massive area because a lot of entrepreneurs are really busy, really active, and this is the one area that slips. And I get it. You know, we got Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Google, Hangouts. You know, we've got Instagram. We've got Periscope. We've got to run the kids to soccer on a Tuesday night, and then our daughter's doing horse riding, and this other kid's doing ballet. Then I got home to watch the reruns of Lost, and like, it's a busy world out there. And the trap is, I feel that intimacy with the Lord, our relationship with the Lord, is the thing that gets put on the back burner, and yet it's the most important thing. Like, if you were to ask those people, they would tell you that, you know, Jesus is the most important part of their life, but in acting that out, it doesn't always happen. And I go back to Moses, right? Take someone from the start of the Bible. I'm sure Moses' life was a little bit more busy than I make out, but this could be a gross understatement, but just humour me for a minute. You can imagine Moses, right? You know, he's on a mountain, he's got all of his sheep, and his job is to get the sheep from this mountain to that mountain by tomorrow night on the journey. But then when he kind of hobbles them and puts them all together at night time, he sits down. There's no iPhone, there's no this, that, there's no television to watch. He sits down, stares at the stars, and enjoys God's company. Like that's what it would have been like for them, far more than it is for us now. So that's really what I'm seeing. I'm seeing a massive disconnect between, you know, do not let the law, you know, leave you, meditate on it day and night. I'm seeing a disconnect between that, Joshua 1:8, and where we are today with, you know, throwing a prayer upstairs to the big fella in 5 minutes, dropping the kids off at school, you know. If that's the extent of our intimacy, we're never going to climb too far because we're going to get taken out. We need to digest this. Now, this is a message as much for me as it is for any one of you, okay? We've got to take this far more seriously because it can't come out of you if you haven't put it in the first place, okay? So, how do I do it? Well, like everybody, I mean, I'm busy. I was always really busy, and I was doing my, you know, good Christian 30 minutes in the morning, read my Bible and follow along in a word of the week type concept. But it was never cutting it for me, and I knew that I wanted to build something fantastic for God. So I knew that I had to increase my intimacy. And this one time, and going back about 2 years, I felt massively challenged to spend half a day with God, uninterrupted with God. Now, we're a consulting-based, fee-based organization, so you would think that if I take half a day off a week, you know, I've lost 10% of my billable hours. Well, that's not what happened, okay? Like, it ended up being the opposite. I was getting so much out of it that it was the most valuable ROI I was getting. Here's a funny story. I originally thought that, you know, if I take half a day, I'm going to come back to such a drama with emails and phone calls that it won't be worth the grief. But funny story, God's got a sense of humor. The first day, I'd go and spend my morning with God. I come back, I go to the car, check my phone, no one rings. God's got a sense of humor on how to make you feel just that little bit smaller again and keep everything in check. So I do that. So I do that for about 7 weeks until I realized there was a pattern. I was just about pressing in when I realized I had to go home. I had to pack everything up because I had meetings in the afternoon. And that's when I felt challenged. Do a whole day. 20% of my week I now don't work. I spend time with the Lord, or, you know, in the early I might take the kids to school or spend some time with Kimberly over lunch, but it's reading my Bible, whinging to the Lord. Show me this, show me this, show me this. How does that work? And when I read, I'm not trying to recite scripture. Okay, I want to look over long passages and understand what's going on behind what's going on, and looking for character, looking for strategy. You're not going to get that out of taking, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me, good scripture, but on its own, quoting it in a problem is not going to work. You need to go back to Joshua. How did he handle the famine? Solomon, how did he handle, you know, and dig a lot deeper. And so I spend most of my time in the Old Testament. I love it. Those laws that God gave to humanity are brilliant. I spend time in there reading long passages and chewing and asking God and whinging to the Lord, why, show me this, show me this, show me this, show me this. And that's how He can start to open up a deeper level of revelation than just, you know, surface level reading. That's what I'd be doing. That's what I'd be doing if I were you. Go and spend far more time. See, it's a personal discipline. See, we all want to do it and we never get around to it generally. That is your personal accountability and your personal discipline. That's why I love this question so much, because most people want to and most people aren't doing it anywhere near enough. If you want to build a massively, highly influential business, you need to know this book intimately and more than you do today, and me too, okay? So we've all got to climb this mountain. But you're only going to do it with big chunks of time, whinging to the Lord, seeking revelation from it. It's not going to happen just by doing a little bit. That's my answer. Spend way more time with the Lord, book it in, and make it happen. So, word of the week. Word of the week. Nothing massively profound, nothing that's going to blow your socks off. A cheeky little scripture that I found a little while ago that I absolutely love, okay? And it's right at the end of Mark. In fact, Mark 16:20. Mark 16:20. I'll read it to you. This is what it says. Then the disciples went out, preached everywhere, and the Lord worked with them. Okay? How's that for a cheeky little scripture? And the Lord worked with them. So let me put it into some context. The disciples hadn't been through a 5-year Bible college. They hadn't read all of John Maxwell's 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. They didn't have a Bible. They had a huge amount of passion. But here's this. Unschooled. They'd been with Jesus for a few years. They had kind of experienced it. But they weren't educated. They didn't have structure. They weren't the smartest people in the world. And yet, God worked with them, with all their flaws, with all their inabilities. I find it massively encouraging because I have all my flaws, you have all your flaws, and yet God will work with us. So it doesn't say that He only worked with the best ones. It doesn't say, all it says is God worked with them, regardless of what they did or didn't have, their theology that they didn't have, how many years they'd spent studying and stuff like that. God worked with them. And I find that massively encouraging. So wherever you are right now in your walk with Jesus, God will walk with you. Well, that's a wrap up of episode 2 of Business Greenhouse TV. If this was valuable, if you want it, hey, why don't you go to our Facebook page and tag a friend that you think would like to watch this video. Tag a friend that would like to watch this video. Bless you guys. Catch you next week.